Powerscaling, also known as the one-word translation of, "Yeah, but can they beat Goku, mate?" A good story isn't reliant on how powerful the characters are, so long as it fits the story, and is well handled. And that's good for me. However, an issue a lot of games and stories fall for is the ever-increasing power scale, where in order to make the next entry or arc more enticing and threatening than the last one, to keep the consumer engaged, they scale the power level of the characters and or up the threat. So instead of maybe saving one city, now it's a country, now it's a planet, now it's the universe, etc, etc. And stories can be told with this style, but the problem some run into is that they never ever really support that increasing power level with really anything. The series moves away from its core identity of its founding, the thing that hooked people into the story or game to begin with, and later iterations just end up not feeling the same. I'm a fan of Naruto, but it's a good example of this, where in the beginning they utilized stealth tactics and used various tools like scrolls to showcase the power system of the world, that just kind of phased out of relevance over time. So you got near the end and it just felt more like a show about giant monsters than it was about ninjas, even if it was just Naruto's unique variant of ninjas, because that's kind of what the show became. And Xenoblade is a series where the protagonists almost always start off as some run-of-the-mill jabroni, just trying to live. That's not really all that powerful in the grand scheme of things. Shulk was really just a mechanic, while Vex was a salvager, and Noah was just an offseer in the army of Kevers. Then they find something or someone that gives them a ton of power, or they somehow awaken to be able to use that ability or that tool. Shulk had the Monado, Vex had Pyra, Noah had the Ouroboros Stone, and by the end they are practically on par with the Divine Rinse Repeat. Also, Noah had Lucky 7. And in a series intrinsically linked to giant godlike anime swords, which are awesome by the way, how does Xenoblade keep your interest with the world while still establishing legitimate threats? Well, let's take a look and see how Xenoblade's power scaling works. And first off, let's cover broad strokes here, because the more I think about this topic, the funnier this realization becomes for me. Xenoblade's power scaling is almost inverted. Many other series of games start off weaker and get stronger or more threatening with time. It can be seen as cheap, but it's an effective way for the next threat to feel more threatening, if it is more threatening, mechanically speaking, than the last one. Xenoblade kind of does the opposite. By the end of Xenoblade 1, Shulk awoke to his true Monado, and fights someone in possession of multiple Monados. And before giving up his godlike powers, Shulk creates a new world for the people of Bionis and Mechonis. So literally, first entry, we become equivalent to gods and make worlds by ourselves. Okay, to be fair, the other Monados are used up, but he did defeat Xansa to get those Monados to begin with. And sure, Alvis helps him out a little bit, but you get the point. Then we go over to Xenoblade 2, and it's more of a lateral step. Instead of becoming even more powerful, Rex awakens his own Monado with the third Aegis sword. And the key difference here is that Rex isn't a world creator like Shulk. Instead, Rex attains light speed, at least on par with Jin, and is able to channel the full power of Numa as an Aegis and defeat another Aegis occupying a mech powerful enough to destroy the world. It's freaking sweet! But funnily enough, you could honestly make an argument that Rex is weaker than Shulk here, at least at the end, with Shulk with the third Monado and Rex with his own Monado, the third Aegis sword. But it's hard, because all we really see of Shulk's Monado was that he was able to cut through Xansa with it, and use it in conjunction with the other Monados and possibly Alvis to make a world without gods. But I don't think you can make a definitive argument that one person is inherently stronger than the other. And that's kind of the point with Xenoblade 1 and 2. Instead of being set in the same world, they are set in separate worlds with their own power progression, their own systems. And the form that power takes is different depending on the game and what obstacles each character must overcome. A lot of the time, I find the power scaling argument that the internet gets so hung up on, from time to time, fails to account for how that power is utilized in the story's world. Shulk awoke to his Monado way later than Rex did, because in Rex's world, he needed it way sooner to contend with Jin and Malos. And his character development just happened to get him there to that endpoint sooner than Shulk was, who needed his own Monado only against Xansa, and whose story also kind of relied on Shulk losing out on power for a bit, at least for most of the second half, or at least the final couple of chapters. And if I needed to lean towards anyone, I'd say probably Shulk with the third Monado is more powerful, because he isn't reliant on Numa, and you could argue Shulk's feat was slightly greater, but even then it will come down to debate. There is no clear-cut answer here. because we see the power that each character manifests be used for different things. There's no real direct comparison. And the reason that this is still engaging is because the characters get these powers in a non-formulaic manner. They get more powerful when the story calls for it, and after some character development happens to let them get more powerful, so the story progresses, then they get more powerful. It's not a matter of, oh, cool, a new enemy 5 levels higher than me. Let me use expert mode and I'll bring my level up by 5. No. It's, oh, okay, let me readjust my worldview, learn from my mistakes, and accept myself, become a better character and one that's constantly maturing, and my power will manifest in a new form to represent that. Shulk had his various Monados and even artificial ones, and Rex had various blade weapons and awakenings to new forms of Pyra, Mithra, and finally Numa. Heck, even Nia to a degree, the power fit the world, and it fit the story that was being told, and the power itself feels like a tool and not the main enticing factor here. It's meant to be a visualization of the character's own journey and their development. You cut over to Xenoblade 3 and let's face it, Lucky 7 and the Sword of the End are pretty much just really sharp swords at the end of the day. Let the knife do the work and all that. The power scaling is wildly different here, but nothing feels less threatening, and why is that? Because it goes back to what I was just talking about. The power fit the world itself and fits the story that is trying to be conveyed here. In a story all about the characters having to brave themselves to take on the world and shatter the flame clocks that act as shackles to the cruel cycles that inhabit the world of Ionios, yeah, you can have these giant over-the-top awesome fight scenes, and 3 does. They turn into giant interlinked monster forms, and it's awesome. Remember the Mio punch? But the world itself is engaging and threatening by itself, and from what it establishes, where just upping the power of the world isn't required to make people care, or to make people invested. Cutting the flame clock in half, just like that, is a big metaphorical moment all by itself, where a new colony has been freed from having to fight each other just to survive. They can make their own choices. The character and world development is the point, not just what the sword is capable of doing. In all 3 of these games, the big anime sword is used to visualize the developments of the plot and the developments of each individual character or cast of characters. It by itself is not the focal point, it's just showing you essentially we are turning the page here. A new chapter has begun in this narrative. And what the sword can do was an important aspect of Xenoblade 1 and 2. How many times did they say Monado in Xenoblade 1, for instance? And the story and power scaling fit that accordingly, to where you essentially reach the status of the divine in 1 and 2. But the way 3 tackled it was just different. Not better or worse, mind you. It was just a design that was designed for that world and for that story. And that's the trick when it comes to properly utilizing power scaling in various series, in my opinion. It's fine to constantly gain power. It's fine to rapidly gain power. It's fine to lower the threat levels. It just all depends upon how it's implemented. And personally, I like it when the power level of the world is utilized to further the plot and the narrative themes, and Xenoblade is an excellent example of them not being beholden to just constantly increasing the power level, but to utilize power in different ways to further the story and the message of what they're going for in that particular game. My interest in the story doesn't feel like it's reliant upon just seeing even more powerful swords cool or facing more powerful enemies. It's how can we use this sword to solve this overlying problem that deals with these metaphysical human questions. That's one of the reasons I find Xenoblade so fascinating. It doesn't feel like the power level is there as an excuse to not also have compelling characterization and development. It's there to be used as a tool to service the overall experience and the overall narrative, while also providing some pretty sweet combat situations for you mechanically. The Monado arts from Xenoblade 1, using Pyra or Mithra or even Numa in Xenoblade 2. The special arts that were available to Noah specifically through the use of Lucky 7. They not only affect the overall story and feel compelling in their own right, but they also fit the gameplay mechanics of that world. And with that, I'm going to call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe, everybody. Have a great day. Leave a comment down below with your favorite sword from Xenoblade Chronicles. Was it Monado 1, 2, 3? Pyra Sword, Mithra Sword, Numa Sword, Nia Sword, Malice's Sword? Jin Sword? Lucky 7, Sword of the End? Noah Sword, End Sword? Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts and hear your opinions. Maybe it's even Lance's Sword. Hey, it's Lance time. Let's see. We'd like to see a little bit of meat here. Hit the bell icon to be notified for when I upload in the future. Stay safe. Have a great day. Hope to see you all again next time. Go play some video games if you can. Bye-bye, everybody.